Imagine the world plunged into darkness, the only light from the occasional flare streaking across a scarred sky. It's the final hour before dawn, a time when the world holds its breath. For the millions of soldiers huddled in the trenches of World War I, this hour was known as the Stand To. It was the most terrifying, most tense, and most sacred ritual of their day. Today, we're pulling back the curtain of history to understand what it truly meant to face the dawn in the Great War. The Stand To, or Stand to Arms, was a daily military routine, but in the trenches, it became something more. It was a mandatory order for every soldier, from the lowest private to the highest officer, to be awake, armed, and in full battle gear, manning the fire step of the trench. Why? Because the half-light of dawn and dusk provided the perfect cover for an enemy attack. Visibility was poor, making it difficult to spot advancing troops until they were almost upon you. Generals on both sides knew this, and they exploited it. The Stand To was a grim, necessary precaution against a sudden, bloody onslaught. Picture it. It's 4 a.m. You're shaken awake not by a gentle alarm, but by the gruff voice of your sergeant or a sharp nudge from the man next to you. The cold is a physical thing, a damp chill that has seeped into your bones after a night spent in a muddy, rat-infested dugout. You don't have time to think. You stumble, your body aching, and pull on your heavy gear. Your boots are caked in mud, your uniform is damp, and the weight of your rifle, bayonet, and ammunition feels like a permanent part of you. You clamber onto the fire step, a narrow ledge carved into the trench wall, and peer over the parapet into the terrifying expanse of no man's land. And then, you wait. This was the heart of the Stand To's psychological torment. The silence was rarely complete. It was a tense, heavy quiet, punctuated by the distant rumble of artillery, the crack of a sniper's rifle, or the grotesque sound of a wounded man crying out in the dark. Your eyes strain to make sense of the shadows. Is that a bush, or is it a German helmet? Is that the wind whistling through the barbed wire, or is it the sound of wire cutters? Every nerve is on fire. Your heart pounds in your chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. Your finger rests on the trigger, your mind racing through 100 nightmare scenarios. This waiting, this agonizing suspense could last for an hour or more. It was a shared experience, a collective holding of breath along miles and miles of trenches. You'd glance at the man next to you, his face a pale mask of fear and exhaustion, and see your own terror reflected back. There was a strange camaraderie in this shared dread. You were all in it together, facing the same potential end. It was a bond forged not in conversation, but in silent, mutual understanding. You were a link in a chain, and the strength of the entire line depended on you staying alert. The Stand To wasn't just about defense. It was often a time for aggression. Soldiers were ordered to fire a few rounds into the enemy lines, a practice known as morning hate. It was partly to deter an attack, partly to test the enemy's defenses, and partly to just remind them you were there. It was a ritualistic exchange of fire, a deadly morning greeting across the shattered landscape. A volley of rifle fire would erupt from your trench, followed by the answering chatter of machine guns from the other side. For a few minutes, the pre-dawn quiet would be shattered by the chaos of a mini-battle before silence, once again, descended. And what did they see in that dim light? No Man's Land was a landscape from a nightmare. A hellish terrain of mud, craters, and shattered trees. It was littered with the debris of war, broken equipment, strands of barbed wire like thorny vines, and the unburied bodies of fallen comrades and enemies. These ghostly figures, caught on the wire or lying in shell holes, were a constant, grim reminder of the price of failure. To stare out at this desolate scene every single morning was a form of psychological warfare in itself. As the first true rays of sunlight began to pierce the gloom, the tension would slowly, almost imperceptibly, begin to ease. The order "stand down" would be passed along the line. It was a moment of profound, collective relief. You had survived another dawn. The immediate threat of a massed attack had passed. It was a small victory, but in a war where victories were scarce, it felt monumental. The feeling was not one of joy, but of a deep, weary reprieve. You had cheated death for one more day. With the stand down came the next ritual of the day, breakfast. And the most coveted item was rum. The daily rum ration was a lifeline for many soldiers. It was a small tot of dark, potent liquid that warmed the body and, more importantly, steadied the nerves. After the intense stress of the stand to, this gunfire, as it was sometimes called, was a godsend. It was a moment of warmth, a brief chemical courage to face the day ahead. Following the rum, a breakfast of sorts would be served, often bully beef, hard biscuits, and tea, all tasting faintly of mud and metal. The stand-to was a microcosm of the entire war experience. It was a routine of extreme boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. It represented the loss of control over one's own life, the constant proximity to death, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. These men weren't superheroes. They were ordinary people, farmers, clerks, factory workers, thrust into an extraordinary and horrific situation. They endured the unendurable day after day. Their pre-dawn ritual was a testament to their discipline, their courage, and their desperate will to survive. So next time you watch the sunrise, take a moment to think of those millions of young men standing on a fire step a century ago, peering into the half-light with a mix of terror and hope. They stood to arms so that future generations might one day wake up to a peaceful dawn. Their sacrifice, etched into the daily routine of the stand-to, is a powerful and humbling part of our shared history that we must never forget. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story as moving as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what other aspects of WWI you'd like us to explore. Until next time, stay curious.